Hey, successful wives. How you doing? How's everybody doing? Today, we have successful wife Kamaya Dollar. She's an author, speaker, and mentor. She's a daughter of the king. She has dedicated her life to be an example of what it means to walk in obedience and grace while overcoming challenges. Kamaya's willingness to be on the front line for God is for him to get all the glory and for all to see that God is good. Okay, hey, all right,
Hey,
Kamaya, you just coming in, pulling the trigger.
yes,
All
how-
right. Papa, look, ain't nothing wrong with it.
yes, we come locked and loaded. You hear? Hmm.
Okay.
We
No, but
come
I
locked
like
and
that.
loaded.
I love that. I love that. So we gonna dive right in because you and
Mhm.
I we've had conversations. This is we're gonna dive right into the marriage part. This is
Okay.
your second marriage. How long
Mhm.
have you been married?
So I have now been married for 1 whole month. We've been now married for 1 whole month, and it's been
Look at you, you
beautiful.
little baby. Honeymoon. Ain't nothing wrong with it.
Listen, but it's been good. It's been fun. It's been encouraging. It's been refreshing. And so I'm proud of my little 1 month. You hear?
Okay, you better
Because I
be.
know where I came from.
Oh,
Hmm.
okay. All right. That's my segue into my next question because we've had some conversations. So
Yeah.
if you don't mind sharing and blessing some others, because there's some other wives out there. This is their second time around with love.
Hmm.
So how did you meet your first husband? And what were some key factors that led to the demise of that first marriage? And how did you both navigate through that process? Because it wasn't just you getting a
Hmm.
divorce, you
Right.
both, decided to get a divorce.
Yeah. Well, let me drink my coffee.
Take a sip. Take a sip.
Mm, so I met my first husband in church many years ago. I want to say over 10 years ago. And at convocation, and we were both, youth singing in the choir
Mm.
and everything. And so it was a while until we began dating. It was at least like 10 years later when we began dating. And I really wasn't into him like that. Like, I really was not into him like that. And everybody around me that was mutual friends of ours, they just was like, Kamaya, give him a chance, give him a chance. And I'm like, because I wasn't attracted to him. And then all the things that I wanted in a partner, like he just wasn't giving that game. You know what I mean? Like he wasn't coming on to me. He wasn't all those things. So I was just like not
Mm.
drawn to him at all. We were friends, but as far as dating, I didn't see it. But everybody convinced me, go ahead and give him a chance. So I gave him a chance. And then we were together for about 5 years. We got married on our 5th year anniversary. Um, and about a couple weeks in, maybe like a month in, things went to the left.
To the left, to the left. Oh,
After five
oh.
years of dating, it went straight to the left after marriage. And so we saved ourselves. We didn't kiss, we didn't have sex, we didn't live together. And so we did all that we knew how to do to, be holy and to present ourselves. But when it came down to the marriage, some things happened. Um, he had lost two siblings within 6 months of each other, pretty violently. And then I want to say that same year, later that year, we still got married. We still proceeded with our plans because his siblings passed away at the top of the year, and we had planned to get married at the end of the year. So we still proceeded with our plans. And so I think that his grief had a lot to do with it. Like now that I'm on the other side of it, I feel like I am emotionally intelligent to know enough to know that I think his grief played a part in him checking out so fast of the marriage. But he didn't communicate that at the time. So at the time, I didn't know. He was telling me, I'm okay, I'm okay. better yet, he was avoiding conversation at all. So I really didn't know, what to do. And he abandoned the marriage and was doing things that really, really,
Well,
really. Mhm.
oh, so when you say abandon the marriage, you're saying emotional abandonment or physical abandonment?
I would say both. Emotional in terms of like we weren't talking, we weren't communicating, we weren't checking in with each other. And I would say physically because he did everything that he could do to stay away from the home so that he wouldn't have to face me. And so physically, like he just was not there. Like when I came home from work, he was gone. When I, got up, I might have fell asleep or whatever, he was gone. Like he just completely avoided me. Either he was gone altogether or he was sitting in his car for hours and hours and hours. And when I say hours and hours, I mean hours and hours. Playing video or playing on his phone or maybe watching YouTube or whatever he was doing, but it was he avoided me.
Did you guys during that time um seek counseling, any type of pastoral counseling, any type of professional counseling, even outside the church? Like what did
Yeah.
that look like? What did
Um
the whole process look like?
yeah, I was seeking counseling for myself because I was in like such a depressed state behind it all that I was in counseling myself, and my therapist realized like maybe we should bring him in, like let's see how he can contribute. And so he began coming into my sessions and we were talking, but he was pretty closed off, and then she referred us to an actual marriage counselor, and even with that person he was very closed off, and she got to a point where she was like, if you don't want to participate, then you don't need to be here, and so basically dismissed us um from her care. And then also I did seek out advice and help from my leaders, our leaders at the time. I was always in communication with my first lady because she was very inspirational to me as a wife, and we always looked up to their marriage because they had been married for like 50 something years. So I mean they're rooted and grounded. So but I mean all I got was pray about it, don't have an attitude,
Mm.
keep your head up, be encouraged. That's really all I got. Yeah.
So, okay, um, so what led when did you both decide, to say, you know what, this isn't working? Now I don't have any experience in this, but I heard that divorce can feel like a death, and although I can only imagine that this process was difficult for the both of you,
Hmm.
um, when did you guys come and say, you know what, this is, we're done? And
Yeah.
then so when it was done, what did you learn during the time when you were both apart, when you're apart? So now the divorce has happened. What
Hmm.
did you learn?
So I'm not as great with timelines, but I can tell you that we got married October 2019. Things went left. I want to say I really stuck it in there and prayed, did the best that I could do for about a year and some change. And right around maybe like February of 2021, that's when we had a conversation and divorce came up. And I'm like, you really wanna you really wanna do this? And he was like, yeah, but I was so confused because it was like, but you didn't even try to work on it and you're resorting to divorce. And so that was the conversation. I was like, okay. And a couple months passed and we were still basically like living like roommates. So it was April 2021 that I
Mm.
came home one day and I went and I sat out in the car with him, opened up the passenger door and I had a seat. And I was like, I can't do this no more. I'm not giving up on the marriage. but I can't do this. And so I decided that I was going to go back home to my grandmother's house. And I left that door open, like we can still work on it, you know, when you feel like you want to talk, like I'm totally open because I wanted the marriage to work. But living like roommates and just feeling disrespected, disregarded,
Yeah.
uncovered, and all of that, I couldn't do it anymore. And so I do know that that was April 2021. And then our divorce was final uh September 2022. So last about a year ago and some change.
Okay. When
Uh,
I want you to go back to two things I want to clarify for those who
mhm,
are watching. When you said
mhm,
that you want to talk to your first lady, I want to make that clear. She's talking about the pastor's wife. And
mhm.
some denominations, when you
Oh,
say
okay.
first lady, you know,
Hmm.
because everyone may not, you know, I didn't want people to be confused by that.
Okay.
The first
Okay.
lady of the church, that is the
Hmm.
pastor's wife. And when you said um uncovered,
Hmm.
explain, I know what you mean when you say you
Hmm.
was left uncovered, but
Hmm.
just clarify what you mean when you say uncovered, how you felt uncovered, he left you uncovered.
I feel like a husband is supposed to be a covering for the home and protection for the home. And there were so many times when I woke up in the middle of the night and my door was still unlocked. He was gone, but the door was still unlocked. The garage was left open. Like anybody could have walked in and did whatever they wanted to me. There were times I knew he wasn't praying for me, you know, so I was uncovered spiritually.
Spiritually.
I was uncovered emotionally because he wasn't worried nothing about me. He was doing his own thing. So physically, emotionally, spiritually, like I was just left uncovered. He was not doing the things that a husband does to cover and protect his wife. And so when I say uncovered, that's pretty much what I'm referring to. I was left to fend for myself. He did not cover me.
I am so sorry you had to go through that. So when you know, both of you guys, you know, I mean, he's not here, so I do not condone. I'm not doing any type of male bashing because he's
Absolutely.
not, you know what I mean? Because
But
he's
the
not
truth is the
here.
truth, though.
Yeah, no, it's definitely the truth.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is,
Hmm.
or whatever, you know, his part, like it was two people. It
Hmm.
just, as I'm sitting listening to you share,
Yeah.
it doesn't seem like it was a godly
Hmm.
match, you know,
Hmm.
because you know we come up in the church and you originally said you wasn't even attracted to him, like, you know,
Yeah.
with people. So if God, you know, doesn't put it together, you
Hmm.
know,
Hmm.
it doesn't, for to me and my and you know, I it's not that two people are bad, if you will, you were
Hmm.
wrong
Hmm.
or he was wrong. It wasn't a match. You guys shouldn't
Yeah.
have been together in the first place. So how long did you stay? So then you stayed single for about a year, because you've been married for what, a month now. So you stayed single for about a year?
Well, okay, so before I go there, I want to say that, you know, back then you couldn't have told me that it wasn't God. You couldn't have told me that it wasn't God. But
Speak
now,
on it. Speak on it and help some people. Speak on it. Speak on it.
okay, so I was so convinced, and it's not even that because I feel like I was very spiritually grounded. I was praying, I was walking in my purpose, I was on time to church, I was living holy, right? Because you can have the skirt on, you can do all these things and not living holy. Oh, yes, I was.
Come on.
Oh, yes, I was. So you couldn't have told me that it wasn't God, but I was so convinced like that it was. But now I'm realizing that I should have known better based off of the qualities that he showed me when we were dating. He didn't really pursue me the way I wanted to be pursued, which is why I wasn't attracted to him. But because I saw this saved young man who was living how I thought I was living, you know, just saved and whatever, I just felt like oh, if I just pray, like the saints tell me, just pray, pray about it. And the saints, I mean, they were so good at prophesying, coming up to us after church and telling us how good we look together, how purposed
Mm.
we are. I mean, we heard it every single Sunday. Mind you, we dated for 5 years.
But what
So,
did God say? But what did God say to you? Okay. What did God say? Because now you understand two people can be saved,
yeah.
love God,
And
but
not,
that don't mean that, and that's you just
mhm,
my point. What I'm saying, both
yeah,
saved, living holy, can't even say it was a
yeah.
slip up. So y'all wasn't engaging in any
Nope.
sexual immoral activity or anything. But
Mm-mm.
just because two people are saved and go to church, it doesn't mean that you're equally yoked together and God wants you to be together.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I felt like I think I felt like it was safe because he was
Mm.
saved and filled with the Holy Ghost. Like I felt like maybe I wasn't attracted to him, but it's a safe decision. At least I know my husband gonna be faithful to me. At least I know, he in the church. At least
Wow.
I know. I think that was my reasoning for
I can see that. Mm.
because I just, like I said, I wasn't delusional at the time. Like I was looking at something. My eyes was on something, and I think it was the fact that it was a safe decision. He's saved. He's an elder in the church. Like I see him praying. I see him reading his Bible. I see him shouting, worshiping, all of the things. So I think it was a safety decision for me. Feeling like, well, he ain't gonna cheat on me. He gonna be faithful. So that's what I went with. And I wasn't hearing the voice of God. I was hearing the voices of,
Well, whew,
which
take a
convinced me
whew.
it was the voice of God. And so
Mm.
that's where I went wrong. That's where I went wrong. I wasn't taking the signs that I had. The fact that he didn't, pursue me the way that I wanted to be pursued. I did notice that he had some communication issues, but I always kind of gave excuse like, well, he wasn't raised, to make school priority. Like he didn't graduate from high school. So I just kind of equated it to that, like he don't communicate right because this is how his childhood was, not knowing that I should have been looking at that like, no. you know, I wanted to give him a chance. I wanted to be the one and the wife that was understanding and that loved him through it and
Oh,
that
bless your heart.
stood by his side. Oh, and now we're here.
Mm. Much wiser. Hallelujah.
Much wiser, my
Much
God.
wiser.
And then, so you asked me, oh, okay, so time-wise about being with my now husband. So we met in May 2022, 2022. Um, that was our first time meeting in person. We met on an online dating site called BLK. And I was far separated from my husband, from my ex-husband. We had been physically separated for a whole year and some change, but the divorce wasn't final.
Mhm.
But because my healing process started before I even separated from him and left the home, I felt like I was truly in a place where I could talk to somebody else. God knew what I needed. God, He saw me. He saw me, and thank God that Cameron came my way and we met. I was very open and honest with him about where I was in my healing journey because I was ready to date, but I do recognize that I was still healing. I am still healing. There are some parts that there are some healing parts that still take time, to work out and as things come up. But the most wonderful thing about my husband is he's so understanding, that we even talk about it. Like he gives me the space and the safety to talk about it. And so when we met, I was still legally married. I hadn't been with my husband in over a year, but I was still legally married. So we began dating May 2022 and we got married December 31st, 2023. So that's kind of the timeline. I wasn't all the way divorced yet. I was close to it. So papers was all filed and everything. But you know, in California, you go through this waiting period of 6 months before your before the divorce is final. So I was in
Okay.
that period when I met my husband.
Okay.
Mm.
Okay. And so meeting him, um, let me see. So would you, so I want you to, I, I can just hear some people saying, well, she was still legally married and, but so you were still legally married,
Mm-hmm.
but you hadn't seen your husband.
Mm-hmm.
So, but did you have the same approach with your current husband as your last husband by still being, um, by not,
Being
engaging,
fully divorced, or
huh?
by not fully being divorced.
No, but so did you, so with your first husband, you said you guys didn't have,
Oh yeah.
intimacy, sex
Mm-hmm.
until marriage. Was it the same with your second husband as well?
Absolutely not.
Oh,
I was getting all that I could get. You hear me? I did my waiting and I said, Lord,
wait, stop.
what do I want to do?
I am so, oh my God, I was not expecting that. I thought you were going to say, yes, yes, I
No.
held on. Oh, oh,
So let
precious
me
Jesus.
let me explain. Let me explain. Let me
Okay,
explain.
precious Jesus. Okay, my bad.
Let me
I
explain.
know you give me.
So
I
I
thank you for your honesty. I thank you for
I'm
keeping
gonna
it
keep
a
it a
buck.
buck. I'm gonna always keep it real. Okay, so I was in my little rebellious stage when I met my now husband. I was still a little bit rebellious, okay? I was at the end of it. I knew that, like, okay, this ain't for me because I was meeting people on the app and I was just doing what I wanted to do. I was smoking at the time. I was just doing what I wanted to do. I was so just exhausted from being so committed to the church. Like growing up, I didn't smoke, drink, party, have sex, none of that all my life. But this divorce took a lot out of me. And I got to the point where I was just like, okay, God, I'm going to go out here and I'm going to experience the world and I'm going to do what I want to because I'm tired of being accountable, you know? But in my mind, I looked at it as I was collecting data. I was going out into the world to collect my data because I wasn't raised in the world. So I didn't know too much about the world. And so I
Wait,
just,
okay, hold up. Stop, 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 stop.
okay,
Collecting data.
I was collecting data. Mm-hmm.
Girl, what tell me, what does that mean, collecting data?
So I'm about to tell you. So I knew nothing about the world because I was this church girl saved all my life in the church every week, every Sunday, every choir rehearsal, every Bible study, every women's night, YWCC. I was always in the church. I wasn't in the world. And so as I got into my adulthood and now experiencing this divorce, I felt like I knew nothing, right? And people are like, what rock you been under, right? And so I didn't know too much about the world. So I felt like, let me go do what I want to do. I'm going to smoke with them. I'm going to go out. We're going to go bar hopping. I was collecting I wanted to see what it was like to just do what I wanted to do. Cause low key, as a young church girl, there were times where I was like, God, why they get to smoke and not be convicted, and they still get to get up and lead praise and worship, and here I am with my Holy Ghost, and I can't.
Ooh,
Like, what? How come? Right? And so for me, when I went into my little rebellious stage, like that's what it was about, like just doing what I wanted to do. I was trying to see what is y'all doing, right? Um, and so it was just me experiencing the world.
oh my goodness.
It was just me experiencing the world. So by the time, so I got on this dating site, I had a COVID and I was bored and I just wanted somebody to talk to. So I got on a dating site. I was still in my little rebellious stage, but by the time I got to my now husband, I was like, okay, Lord, this ain't me. I've been out in the world a little too long now. I want to come back. I want to be led by your spirit again. I want to be able to feel your spirit all day long. When I wake up in the morning, I'm saying, thank you, Jesus. Lord, I love you. I missed that. I missed the closeness that I had with God. And so by the time I met my husband, I was like, let me reel it in, right? And so I kind of narrowed my search. And so when I came across his page and we started chatting back and forth, he was asking me questions that I'm like, hold on. And so I
What kind
deleted.
of questions? What kind of questions was he asking you?
Well, he was asking me like, so what are you looking for, in a partner, long term?
Okay.
What do you want? Is your goal marriage? Like, do you want to have a family? Like all of those things. He was asking me stuff like that. And just pretty much was interested in picking my brain, about who I am and what I am, like just as a person. And so I was very intrigued by that. I was like, he asking me all the right stuff that Steve Harvey told us to ask. Yeah. I was
Not
like,
Steve Harvey.
I was like, he asking me all the right stuff. So I'm like, okay. After 3 days of us talking back and forth, I deleted my dating app. I knew that he was the one. I was like, okay, this is it. So I deleted my dating app after 3 days of us talking, and it's been me and him ever since, stuck like glue. We talked, even though we were kind of like long distance relationship. I lived in Oakland, California. He lived in Sacramento. So we were a couple hours apart, but we would talk all day long. Like we kept communication. And so we just grew close and close as the days went by. And that's truly my best friend. So yeah, and here we are.
Wow. Wow. So how would you describe, and again, thank you for keeping it a buck.
Yeah.
That's just your transparency. I
Hmm.
appreciate that. And I know you said so you're back
Hmm.
now
I prayed today,
where
y'all.
you belong.
I did my devotion this morning at 6 a.m.
Yeah. You weren't out there long, so that's a good
Right,
thing.
right. Yeah.
You
And that's something that I prayed about. Because I told God, so here's the thing. God made me a promise. Back when I was dating and courting my ex-husband, God made me a promise that I would have a good husband and that we would have a beautiful family. And my eyes have always been focused on that. And so once I accepted the reality that my first husband, okay, that's not it, but he still made me a promise. I was able to shift my focus from him to, okay, God, let me go ahead and heal because I don't want to miss it. Right. And
okay.
so my now husband, he was very, very open to and intrigued by my past. He was very intrigued about, like, he allowed me the space to talk about it. He helped me to process it. That's the truth. He
No, that's
helped me to
awesome.
process. And so now, because my eyes was focused on the promise that God made, that allowed me to move on. It allowed me to get myself together and move on. And so I was gonna say something and now I didn't forgot what I was gonna say. I was going somewhere with this, y'all.
No, it's fine. So it sounded like when you said you went through your rebellious stage. So it just sounded like it was a whole lot going on. You was angry, you was mad. Look, I did this marriage thing right. I was
Yeah.
faithful. I
Mm-hmm.
was praying for him. I was doing all of this and that. You know what?
Mm-hmm.
I, so so you were rebellious,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
like a child.
And those
You were
are the
rebellious.
exact thoughts going through my mind. I prayed. I did the right thing. I saved myself. I did the right thing. But oh, that's what I was gonna say. Because I kept my eyes on the promise, I believe that God, not that I believe, you can look around my house and see what I'm blessed with right now. God redeemed the time. He redeemed the time for me. And the fact that I'm not afraid, like, to admit that, like, I wasn't all the way legally divorced, or yeah, legally divorced. When I met my now husband, God redeemed the time. He sped that thing up for me. And I know that it was God because I kept my eyes on the promise. I was faithful and I did do what he told me to do. Um, and so now here we are.
And here we are. So I do want to say this though. for anybody, because I believe a lot of us, we grew up like that, and because the church pretty much preach the purity thing to the
Mhm,
women. And I'm
mhm,
not saying that that's wrong, because it's in God's word, but there's such a double standard,
mhm,
if you will. However, but I do want to say this: doing the right thing for God is
mhm,
never a wrong thing, no
mhm,
matter how frustrating it is. So, you
mhm,
had kept yourself, no drinking, no smoking, just, in commune with God. That
mhm.
was not a wrong thing. That
Yeah.
wasn't a weird thing or boring thing. It was a God thing. So,
Mhm,
I just want to say that. But also how you felt, that's human too, because
mhm.
we do look at those that's doing any and everything in the church, but they doing praise and worship and they're fornicating. They
Yeah.
doing praise and worship, but this one is sleeping with this one's wife, or over here or over there. So
Yeah.
it's two realities. You seeing all this going on, but what
Mhm,
I want people to understand is what they're doing in the church has
mhm.
absolutely nothing to do with your obedience to God. So
Right.
we can't never,
Mhm.
our obedience to God should be our obedience to God, and
Shouldn't
never,
compare.
yeah,
Mhm,
and not move out of what God
mhm.
has for us based on somebody else's sin.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I'm gonna tell you, it looked like folks getting away with stuff, but baby, nobody's getting out of this unscathed. If you're
Yeah.
saying I live for God, but you're doing everything else
Yeah.
behind closed doors or in plain sight,
Mhm,
we
mhm,
have to remember, okay, that don't look fair.
mhm,
Look
mhm,
fair. Why they
mhm.
get, it don't look like they going through anything, but we
Yeah.
don't know how God is dealing with them.
That's right.
So we want to continue to stay obedient to God and stay focused
Mhm.
what He has for us, so we don't miss it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yep, so we don't miss it. So that leads me to my segue. You kind of touched on this, because I was going to ask you,
Mhm.
how in your current marriage do you handle any type of conflicts? But you said that your husband, he gives you that space,
Mhm.
talk about it, and that's excellent. That's that
Yeah.
communication. So for him
Mhm.
to say, hey, whatever's on your mind, and you can talk about,
Mhm.
your ex-husband or the marriage or whatever it is, you are truly blessed. You're
Yeah.
truly blessed, because
Yeah.
in some marriages, you'll hear people say, well, the past is the past. And I
Yeah.
want to hear that lead that, well, if the past is affecting now, or
Yeah.
possibly can affect what we're in now, can you give me grace and
Yeah.
room to talk about that?
Yeah, absolutely. And some people told me, stop talking to your husband about, well, not husband, but stop talking to Cameron about, your past experience. Don't tell him everything. And I'm just like, no, like we're each other's safe space. And I
That's
didn't
that.
go through what I went through to stay quiet about it. And that even my now husband is gonna know what's up. He's gonna know what my ministry is all about. He's gonna know that I went through all of that so that I could be a good wife to him.
Mm,
And so that I can learn how to communicate with him, so that I can learn how to control my own emotions, so that I can learn how to, talk to him in a loving way and serve him in a loving way. Because when you've had something that wasn't so good, you appreciate the good thing so much better. And so it has a lot to do with like me being able to share with Cameron, just things that I've been through. It has a lot to do with just how understanding he is of me, and he gives me grace. We give each other grace. And we, like I said, we're each other's safe space. So now because I've done my work and I've done my healing and I'm still, working on myself, I'm able to, even in the heat of the moment, I'm able to like stop and recognize and say, babe, let's talk about this later. And he'll say sure or whatever. And he may even be irritated. But once I'm able to process and then verbalize my feelings, then I can come back to him and say, I felt frustrated because you were doing X, Y, and Z. And I don't know, that got on my nerves. Like it just, my last experience just taught me the value in being able to talk to your partner. Um, and being able to express yourself, and how it's just important to not leave stuff on the table,
Yeah.
undone. You got to come back to it. You got to come back to it. You got to be able to express yourself, and your partner being your safe space, it makes it easy, and it also bonds you closer, because once you talk about it, okay, now I know, don't do this no more. It
Yeah,
just makes the relationship better as the days go on, and you
absolutely.
can kiss and make up and go on about your business.
Absolutely. And going back to what you said, how people tell you, don't tell your husband this,
Mhm,
leave stuff
mhm.
out. Don't 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 listen to those people. I
Oh
mean,
no. Hmm.
don't. I mean, and this, and I'm coming from a place of, because when we're talking about marriage, everybody's marriage is different.
Hmm.
Some
Hmm.
people may not share something with their husband
Hmm.
or their wife because they betrayed them
Yeah.
away. Maybe they shared something with them and that person got on the phone and
Yeah.
called their family members, or maybe they threw something back up in their face. But if
Hmm.
that's not your marriage,
Yeah.
then that advice doesn't even
It's
apply.
irrelevant to me,
Yeah.
in my marriage. Yeah.
Yeah, that's your marriage.
And not to
Yeah.
bust her out, but it was my grandmother, one of the people who was like, don't keep talking about your past, like don't tell him everything. And I was like, okay, Brenda, but I know what type of relationship that I had. I know what type of relationship we were building towards. And so, thanks be unto God, like he is very understanding, and he is a safe space. And I was able to express myself, because that pushed my healing so much further,
Yeah. Yeah.
along, because remember how I was saying how I wasn't able to communicate with my husband, my ex-husband. He wouldn't talk to me. He wouldn't talk about what the issue was. He wouldn't even tell me what the issue was. Like, just imagine being in a marriage and you don't know what's wrong. You know what I mean? But yet they're not talking to you about it. So I had nobody to vent to. I had nowhere to put that steam, nowhere. And so being able to talk about it, like when I got with Cameron and just being in that relationship, it helped me to just kind of
Yeah.
purge it out. I wasn't holding on to it anymore. I wasn't, feeling like I had something to say, like he gave me that safe space to say it. And so it helped, it brought
Yeah.
us so much closer.
And then, and as you guys continue to grow, because you only been married a month, so all this is
Hmm.
still fresh and new. And
Hmm.
it's not like you're going to be talking about your ex-husband
Forever.
years from
Yeah.
now.
Hmm.
So the fact that he's giving you this safe space to get it out, and you
Yeah.
guys talk, and you're moving, past that, because you guys are gonna, share,
Hmm.
whatever you guys,
Yeah.
whatever your bond is, and whatever you guys are going to share and grow with your
Hmm.
goals, your dreams, and how you want to do things. So I personally don't see anything wrong with it, especially he's like, go ahead, get it on out, get it out. I'm here to understand.
And let me say this too. You have to be careful not to compare.
I
See,
was just going to say that
talking,
as well. Yeah.
yeah, talking
Yeah.
with this about the situation with Cameron, my now husband, I wasn't comparing him. I was
Right.
just venting. Like, he became my best friend. You talk about stuff with your best friend, right?
Right.
And so it wasn't me comparing. And I think a lot of times when people say stuff to you, like, don't talk about, they think that you're going to compare, because you see this stuff on TV and, da da da. So it's in their mind that it's only comparison, and I'm not comparing, I'm more so venting. And so that's the difference. You got to be healed enough to know, like, conversation is okay.
Yeah.
Conversation is okay. To compare and to project, that's not okay. So
Exactly.
that's the difference. So there's a healthy balance here, So yeah.
That is good. And I was going to, so speaking of balance, so you're an
Mhm.
author, a speaker, and a mentor.
Mhm.
So talk to me about those roles. And it sounds like you guys have a healthy balance, but still explain how you balance those, which you do,
Mhm.
in your own right, in your own career, how you balance those responsibilities as a wife as well, and how you and your husband both support each other in your different endeavors.
Well, this is pretty new to my husband. It's very new. Although he was raised in the church, he's kind of one of those who went off to college and just kind of forgot about church. And so it's very new. So I'm kind of like easing him into the church world. I'm used to going to church 3 full services a Sunday or some Sundays. And like I'm just used to that, right? That church life, the churchy life.
Right.
And
Churchy,
not
church.
so yeah, so I'm just kind of like easing him into it, but at the same time, um during my separation, I just kind of stopped going to church. So actually I'm back in a place where I'm going to church like regularly, but now that we moved, we're still looking for a church home. So we're not fully engulfed into the balance part, but we will be going to church, together every Sunday. And then, just looking for a place for us both to call home. But really, the balance comes from my husband being so understanding. Like, he gives me the space to do these things.
Okay.
He gives me the space to be creative and to write when I feel like I need to write. When it comes to my mentorship, I do have a few young ladies who I mentor, and I have check-ins with them pretty often, and so he allows me the time to do that. As long as I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing at home and I'm not neglecting him, he has no issue with it. He's so easygoing and laid back. But
And most husbands are, most men are.
yeah. Thank you,
They
God.
are. They
Um,
are.
so I have written 2 books so far, and I am working on the third. Um, but kind of just easing back into that. So I explained to you guys earlier, the timeline has been boom, boom, boom. So a lot of these things, I'm still kind of easing my way back into it. But I was born to write. I was born to speak. I was born to encourage. I was born to mentor. My whole life is an example. I'm not ashamed of the things that I've been through. And so when it comes to balancing it all, I think my husband's just really understanding of my purpose. And he's actually inspired by me to find his purpose. And so it just works.
Okay. So you wrote 3 books. Tell us, you were sharing with me earlier that it's a series. So tell us about book 1, 2, and 3, how they all kind of
Yeah.
together.
So book 1 is entitled I'm Not Married, but I Pray for My Husband. And that was birthed out of when I was dating my ex-husband. And like I said, we were together for 5 years. And I think around like year 3, I was like, Lord, I don't know what else to do. Cause I was trying to get the ring, right? And he hadn't even proposed to me yet. I was like, Lord, I don't know what to do. So the Lord told me to fast and to pray for my husband. And so then he began to download all of the things to pray for. And I took a step back and I'm like, what, Lord? You want me to write a book? And so it became a 31-day devotion. And I cover 31 areas where you can pray for your husband. Anything from his career, his relationships, his dreams, his whatever. We just praying for all areas of his life. And so that was book 1. And then book 2 is I'm Not Married, but I Need Prayer Too. And of course, as wives, we need prayer too. We need to pray for our attitude. We need to pray for, our job. We need to pray for direction. We need to pray for, our past experiences and hurts. And we go through a lot of emotions, throughout the day. And so book 2 is a devotional for the wives, praying for your own self. If you have any anger, if you have any unforgiveness, like just praying for our own selves. And then book 3 is I Got What I Prayed For, Now What? That one is not published and out yet. But those are pretty much prayers for husband and wives together, things to pray for together, decisions that we have to make together, issues that we're having, and we need to work through those issues together. So that's what book 3 is about. And yeah.
Okay. That is awesome. That is awesome. So as we wrap up again,
Mhm.
this was, I just truly, truly love your transparency. So I'm always asking wives this question. I ask every wife this question.
Mhm.
Marriage. So marriage shows you more
Mhm.
about you than
Yes,
it
it does.
does your spouse. That's anybody that's married, they knows that marriage shows you more about you. So
Mhm.
what has marriage shown you, Kamaya, about yourself? What have you learned? How have you grown?
Yeah.
What is it about marriage that Kamaya that has shown about Kamaya?
I have a whole lot of patience, but I need a whole lot more. So marriage has shown me, to work on my patience, to continue to work on, being graceful. I am very graceful, but some more, like when we
Mm.
say, God, I want more of you, it's like we can be those things, but we need more and we need to actively work on those things. And so, I definitely need to work on my patience. I need to work on communicating, even though I feel like I'm very vocal and communicative. Like I still need to work on that because there is a way that my now husband needs to be communicating with, and I need to learn that, right? His language, the way that he prefers to be talked to, the way that he prefers, to be served. And so it's definitely teaching me that I could use some buffing in some of those areas. As far as I have learned, because my husband is very we're good at different things. And one thing that I do a lot is procrastinate. And so he told me the other day, you need to work on that because there's some papers that I needed to sign. And I ain't got to them papers yet, Lord. I did start working on it though. But it's the procrastination. And that transparency between us, it allows me to really open up to him because I told him, I said, you know what? I recognize that when I procrastinate, it's because I don't know how to do it. And so I avoid it. And so I was able to recognize that the other day. And he was like, okay, well, I'll help you. So marriage is definitely a mirror and it's definitely teaching me, just continue to perfect those areas of your life, continue to strive for perfection. A lot of people say, I'm not perfect, I'm not perfect, but God is. And isn't God inside of you? So what are you trying to say?
Mm.
Like we're supposed to be striving for that perfection. We're supposed to be striving to be like God. And if God is perfect, there is no excuse that we can give that will justify us being people, and us being fleshly and of our flesh. Like no, that's not an excuse. And so I'm just constantly working on me, constantly working on myself, asking God to purify my heart, my intentions, my thought process, um and just to help me to be more like him.
That is awesome. That is awesome. That's awesome. And so much self-awareness, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because sometimes that's very hard for people to do,
Yeah.
is to look in the mirror because it
Yeah.
might just be you, it might just be us, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's awesome, very honorable, and
Mm-hmm.
definitely God honors that because God honors honesty.
Yeah.
So that is awesome. Well, we thank you. Oh gosh, this has been awesome. We thank you for being with us today.
I
And
thank you.
yes, it has been an honor. I love when I'm interviewing wives because it's just so pleasurable because every wife is different, every
Mm-hmm.
marriage is different, but it's
Mm-hmm.
honorable in
Yeah.
God's sight. So, guys, we hope you enjoyed the interview today. And follow us again. I'm DC Constant, founder of the Successful Wives. Follow us on all platforms at the Successful Wives Network. And until
Mm-hmm.
next time, be blessed and remember, you define your own success as a wife. Okay? All
Okay.
right.